Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and we are out riding the Honda Trail 125. I'm pretty excited about this because I've been curious about this bike for a while. I'm a fan of the Honda MiniMOTos. In fact, we're out here riding all 5 of the Honda MiniMOTos today, doing a little video on all of them individually and then one on all together. So check the link in the description if you want to kind of see, well, why would you buy one over the other. But this is the most rugged version, the Trail 125. Sporting a 4-speed semi-automatic transmission, which I just experienced on the Super Cub. So I'm interested to try it here in this setup. But not only that, we have kind of a go-anywhere sort of aesthetic. If some of you are into motorcycles, you may have seen the Revzilla guys take one of these all the way up into Alaska and ride it around for a very entertaining video. If you haven't, I highly recommend checking that video out. But this is a remake, if you will, of the original Honda Trail 90 and Trail 125 bikes. But despite still being ruggedized, it's entirely modernized as well. A fuel-injected with single-cylinder 125cc motor and that 4-speed semi-automatic. Well, not really semi-automatic. It's a clutchless manual, if you will. So let's just get right on to it. This one's got some knobbier tires than the Super Cub that we rode. Some protection there for the suspension, the shocks. This one has standard ABS as well, which I'm a big fan of. And then look at this big old cargo spot. You can put a whole bunch of things on there. It says 44 pounds max weight limit. You could really load this bad boy up. All right, I'm curious to just get on with it here. Almost feels like a bicycle. It's very thin, very narrow down here, and big tall handlebars that come up. Ooh, we've got the same gauge cluster as we had on the Honda Monkey. Difficult to see, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm sure you can barely see that in the camera, but we do have a fuel gauge. We have a speedometer, a light for ABS, blinkers, check engine, neutral, and brights. A horn. It's a horn? No, horn's on the left. Okay, for a second I thought it was on the right, but that's the starter. None of the interesting proxy key stuff or anything like the Super Cub. This is just a normal old key. Oh, and you do have a side stand and a center stand. You see how easy? Oh yeah, so easy to throw it up on that center stand. Change out a tire or something. Slap it back down here. Big grippy handlebar grips. Comes to life. And the shifter, you actually can go forward to go down in a gear, or with your heel back to go up. So go down into first here and ride away. A little bit more grainy of a sound. Ooh, I think this one has some lower gearing than the Super Cub, and it feels stronger. Super upright seating position, a hard seat as well. This is a 2021 model. Much older than the 23s that we've been riding today. Speed bump test. Alright, so still a firm suspension. Not quite as soft as the Monkeys, but maybe a tad bit softer than the Super Cub. No gear indicators, so you gotta kind of know what you're doing. This is the first one of the Honda MiniMOTos that I've been a little bit cognizant of my power up high, because with this lower gearing, I really don't know what my top speed's going to be. I found the best way to handle these clutchless manuals is to come to a stop in whatever gear you're in and then shift down into first. But unlike the Super Cub, you got to kind of just know which gear you're in when you're dialing down, because you can't see when you hit first. So full tilt, I am just barely keeping up with the Civic next to me. Fourth gear. Okay, so I was doing about 51, 52 in the Super Cub here, and I'm having trouble getting over 50 on the Trail 125. So into the wind, you're gonna have trouble doing even 55 mile an hour speeds on this one. Something to keep in mind for sure. But I do appreciate the gruntiness at lower speeds. I mean, the It's the kind of the price you got to pay for the change in gearing. Really, the most appropriate thing to do with this bike would be to take it off-road, but we don't have that opportunity today. Just a little quick bit of time with these bikes. That is a policeman up there, so we will keep that in mind. An initial impression, these tires manage themselves pretty well. And I actually quite like the handlebar positioning. It feels it feels very very easy, but very throwable as well. So like right now, I don't know if I'm in first or second. Nice V70R right there. Kudos to you, sir. Or ma'am. I don't love the raspiness. It's not raspiness. There's a puffiness to the front of the motor. Also, I'm going to see if I can just take off from a stop sign in second. Oh, you can totally just do second. I don't know if that's bad for it, but it manages it just fine. I'd say unless you're on a dead stop or a hill or something, you'll probably get away with just running this bike in second. Yeah, this honestly, this one feels a little bit easier to ride. It's probably partially just being familiar with it now, but I feel like this one's a little happier, and the lower gearing and the more robust suspension probably helping out a bunch. I quite like this. I'm still not a huge fan of that shifter action. I think it's a bit silly. But I can see how if you were riding off-road, not having to screw around with a clutch would be nice, especially coming to a stop. I guess that's where not having the clutch would be nice, is dealing with stop-and-go traffic, not having to clutch in and out. Stop-and-go traffic and or stop-and-go riding in the woods. With the lower gearing, you can kind of just get up into fourth and then cruise. I mean, I'm doing 30 miles per hour here in fourth. I probably need to downshift if I needed a lot of speed, but Trail 125 is really stable. It likes to stay upright. You gotta give a little bit more throw into it to get it to turn than some of the other Honda MiniMOTOs. But yeah, I would love to throw this thing around some trails. That'd be awesome. Honda, I might have to be asking you for one of these. Turning radius test, or I should say scrape test. Man, this one's got more clearance on the pegs than the Super Cub. Alright. I suppose another reason for the lower top speeds might be the tires. You got more rolling resistance on this than the Super Cub. And you don't have the fifth gear to space things out like you do on the Grom and the Monkey. Also, no clock on the gauge cluster, so that's something to keep in mind. I really like the upright seating position. I like the gruntiness of the gearing. I like the suspension travel. The handlebars, admittedly, with how aggressive they are with the grips, it's not the most comfortable to hold on to with more of a street-oriented glove like this. I imagine if you were bare-handed, then it would be even less comfortable. So despite not being the city-oriented model, I think if you're riding around more tightly, like kind of urbanized areas like this, there's a strong argument to make for the Trail 125 over the Super Cub. You've got this huge storage rack, which you could really convert into something useful, put a bunch of weight on there. The seat might not quite be as comfortable, but other than that, it's more of a scrambler, more of an urban throw-out. I feel more confident in this one. Super Cub's suspension was a little bit more firm, and overall I think it's a little bit more of a style piece than an actual functional thing. The only thing is the Super Cub did a better job getting up to higher speeds. So let's see what we can do with this. Oh, throwing around a little bit there. Going out of the wind, we're still kind of having trouble getting above 50, and I'm getting bounced around quite a bit on this road. The cruising 55-mile-an-hour roads might be a little tough with the Trail 125. I'd say if you do plan on doing more riding like that, you might want to consider the Monkey, but you can't stand on the Monkey. That's the tough thing, whereas this one you can stand up on more so, though I suppose you are hitting that exhaust pipe a little bit. That's fun. This one's fun. I could really see myself wanting to get on one of these if I lived up on some property, a little bit more out in the country. I could see the appeal of having it in the city as well. I just think the Grom and the Monkey might be a little bit better suited, but hey, delivery driver? I could totally see that, that's for sure. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on some more bikes, check the link in the description. I'm about to head out on the little one, the Navi, and then compare them all together. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.